The states that did not even have as severe restrictions or that relaxed them sooner did have faster employment recovery, at least at first. But as the trade-off with that was that they also had a greater number of caseloads and mortality. And so Michigan experienced its big burst in mortality in April, in the spring, when there wasn't a lot of treatment available. A lot of the hospital systems were not prepared, and that's the same with places like New York and New Jersey. Other states that had caseloads peak much later had a bit more time to adapt. And that actually is a fairly important factor that a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of, that if you didn't have your COVID caseload peak until the late summer or early fall, you had several months to plan to build up hospital capacity, to learn about new treatments, not putting people on ventilators right away, for example. And so that played a role in their mortality, but it still came because the virus started spreading more rapidly. And so because in part that you didn't have as many restrictions in place. And so you could have faster employment recovery or less of a decline earlier on. But when the caseloads began spreading more rapidly and mortality started increasing, that's when they took a bigger hit. And so we could kind of trace that out among the groups of states by when their caseload timings peaked. The ones that had later peak loads, they didn't have as much of an employment decline earlier on, it just came later. And then they had to impose restrictions because it was spreading so much. But by then it's kind of too late. And so there will still be this drag on mortality going forward for a few months for them too. So it really is this trade-off of trying to thread the needle between having a balanced amount of restrictions to prevent as many people from dying, but also not to have so burdensome restrictions that too many people lose their jobs and aren't able to go back to them because the businesses no longer exist.